Life in the Lake Champlain Basin. Is there a better place to be on a sunny summer day? We have literally thousands of lakes and ponds to explore and enjoy, doing whatever it is we like to do. But when we transport our boats from lake to lake, we can unknowingly bring along some very unwelcome hitchhikers. Our waterways are being hit hard by an invasion of non-native aquatic nuisances. There are more than 20 species, and the most visible invaders are zebra mussels, Eurasian water milfoil, and water chestnut. There's a threat on the horizon from the alewife, a baitfish, but the good news is that so far it's been found only in Vermont's Lake St. Catherine. The other nuisances, however, were first discovered in Lake Champlain, transported here from other parts of the country by a variety of human activities. And it hasn't taken long for them to spread to over 100 lakes in Vermont and the Adirondacks. When we transport our boats, we transport them. That tiny fragment of Eurasian water milfoil on our boat trailer develops the first new plant. Juvenile zebra mussels lurk sight unseen in our bait buckets, and the seeds from one water chestnut plant will produce 200 more plants.
I'm here at the boat launch, the southern end of Lake Champlain, South Bay boat launch. I just took my boat out of the water, and I'd like to say a few words on the water chestnuts that are in Lake Champlain. I'm a sportsman myself. I hunt and fish all the time, and I've noticed a tremendous amount of reduction in the waterfowl hunting here because of the water chestnuts, and also of the fishing because of a great infestation of water chestnuts being out into the lake. Tourism going by with their boats are continuous getting jammed up with clogs of water chestnuts in their prop.
Mechanical harvesting is one technique used to remove water chestnut, and in just 1 year, over 1,000 dump truck loads were taken out of the southern end of Lake Champlain at a cost of $250,000 to the taxpayers.
Zebra mussels arrived in Lake Champlain in 1993, and as in the other Great Lakes and the inland waters of North America, they've spread very rapidly throughout the entire lake. One of the problems of the spread of zebra mussels outside areas where it's become already established is that the adults have to become attached to a hard substrate, and they can become attached unbeknownst to a boat owner to a boat hull or an outdrive or to cracks and crevices around the hull of the boat. And when the boat's pulled out of the water, the zebra mussels go with it, so when the boat's put into another body of water, the adults may drop off and establish a new population. Equally likely is that the larvae can be transported, and the larvae, the juveniles of the zebra mussel, are microscopic. You cannot see them without the aid of a microscope. And it's very easy if you have a bucket of water on board, for example, water that might be carrying bait in your bait bucket. If that water is taken for Lake Champlain when the villagers, the larvae are in the water, and then subsequently dumped into another lake after a day of fishing on another lake, those villagers can enter the lake and become established. So it's very easy to transport them to a new area where they're not yet present without even knowing about it.
The state of New York operates a public launch ramp at Mossy Point in Ticonderoga. It's on the eastern shore of Lake George, and the concern that we have is its close proximity to Lake Champlain. There's a launch ramp at Shipman Point on Champlain, which is only 3 miles from Lake George. It's an easy access for a fisherman or a recreational boater or whatever to load their boat on their trailer at Champlain, drive the 3 miles to Mossy Point, put their boat in Lake George, and never be inspected. Possibly bringing zebra mussels in their bait wells or in their bait buckets. Our suggestion would be that when you leave Champlain, dump your bait bucket, stop in town on the way, and buy some new bait, come into Lake George, drain your bilge before you put your boat in the water, and enjoy yourself on Lake George for the day.
Since 1985, since the introduction of milfoil in the lake, we've attempted to control the plant by physical means. We either hand harvest the plant. We have divers year after year who go to now 140 different locations on the lake. And if it's a small bed, a small infestation, we hand pull the plants literally from the bottom. If it's a larger infestation of a few hundred feet, we attempt to suction harvest the plant. We have literally a vacuum cleaner around 6-8 inches in diameter, and it's diver operated, and we send 2 divers down at a time, and they literally go along the lake floor and suction the plants off the surface. The third way that we manage the plant in the lake, if the bed is too big when we find it, we layer a benthic mat over the entire bed. The mat commercially comes in 8-foot strips, and we cut it in 100-foot lengths. Again, heavily, human man-hours involved here. Since the mid-'80s, we feel pretty certain that the primary avenue of introduction to the lake and other Adirondack lakes is by boaters inadvertently carrying the plant from an infested lake to an uninfested lake. Clearly, we can visually see on boat trailers any time of the summer a boat removed from Lake Champlain or any of the regional lakes. The trailers just hang with these plants, and the plants withstand a certain amount of drying, so that if a boater, within a day or within a weekend travels from Lake Champlain to Lake George, it's just a matter of time that these fragments can become established in a lake that doesn't have milfoil. Each year we're finding new lakes along what we term the 87 corridor. The corridor used by summer vacationers, summer residents to many of the more populated lakes along the eastern part of the Adirondacks. And their boating activities very readily bring plant fragments into these lakes. By our best estimate, we probably have 4 dozen lakes now in the Adirondacks with milfoil.
The effort to prevent the spread involves us all: state governments, environmental organizations, lake associations, individual businesses, and individuals. For example, at Lake Dunmore,
the Lake Dunmore Fern Lake Association took aggressive steps to try and control the problem, and today we have 4 people employed who do nothing but pull milfoil, search the lake perimeter for milfoil, and also monitor our access area.
And at the North Hero Marina.
What happens is the zebra mussels attach themselves to this 5/8 inch line and completely coat them to the point that it looks like this, which will cause the aluminum mooring to sink. And if it gets below the surface before we can get it out, it becomes a hazard to boaters. If they run over this thing, it can knock out their prop and disable the boat. So the problem is doubled. It's not only we have to replace the line, but if we don't replace it in time or catch it in time, it becomes a problem for the boaters as well.
Here's what we can do. Before transporting your boat, drain the bilge and the prop. Inspect the boat and trailer for any plants. Brake lines, fender brackets, leaf springs, rollers, and frame holes. The same is true for any type of watercraft: sailboats, canoes, kayaks. Carefully inspect the boat for any type of vegetation and remove all water from the hull or other boat parts. And simply remember, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure or more.